Welcome everyone to the No State Project here on LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. 3 hours of Anarchy Radio every single Saturday from 1 to 4 Pacific Time, 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. I am just screwing everything up. I think we're going to have a fun show today. But we're coming to you live from the Fortified Compound in Mesa, Arizona. It is February 11th. And you want to join me on the big show today, you may do so at 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399, and Skype is FrankRizzo3, but please instant message me first because we like to take everybody in order, unless, of course, they're a critic. And the long-standing rule on the show is that we take the critics first. The reason why you don't typically hear critics on the show is because they usually don't call in. But I got an email, and we may actually have a very aggressive critic who's made it kind of his life mission to make sure that I do not get another dime from honest people who are falling for my scam. That regardless of all the proof, of all the people that have had tickets thrown out and assessments and whatnot on 3 continents, doesn't matter because I'm a scammer. So he's supposed to be calling in at the bottom of the hour to prove that I am a scammer. I am selling BS. And so I'm looking forward to that. But if you want to join me, too, it's still going to be a long show, 218-632-9399. And also, what we don't get to cover here, we also have the 1-hour live broadcast on Wednesdays. And the next one will be on Wednesday, February 15th, 2017. As far as I know, we're going to be live that day. So if we don't get to some people today, please feel free to know that you can call in there. You can also email me questions, and I'm going to cover this. I know a lot of people are probably going to groan and say, oh, good Lord, are you really going to talk about jurisdiction again? Yes. Yes, because even to the critics' horror, the show is not growing exponentially, but it's growing steadily. And that's cool. So there's new people that are tuning in all the time, and it's a very important issue, and, if someone emails me about it, I usually can't, yes, I could have just sent him the link to one of the latest articles, but I'll explain it on the air. He says, Mark, on your show, could you talk about jurisdiction and what it is? Well, if you go back to actually, this is one of the better viewed videos, the Debunking Territorial/Personal Jurisdiction, Why It Doesn't Exist. It's actually one of much better performing videos the last couple of months. What made me get mocked and made fun of on the Skeptics forum, which I did another video on. It's another one of those things. Hey, if you're going to be a critic of mine, that's cool. That's cool. Damn it. You're going to have to get my position right. So hopefully ICBMcatcher is going to actually address my actual claims. And I will give him the opportunity to debunk my claims, so that should be fun. So here, jurisdiction, and this is coming from the Cornell School of Law, quoting the United States Supreme Court. It's the power of a court to adjudicate cases and issue orders. It's a territory in which a court or government agency may exercise its power. So it's the ability to exercise power, which... the term jurisdiction is really synonymous with the word power. Any court possesses jurisdiction over matters only to the extent granted to it by the Constitution or legislation of the sovereignty on behalf of which it functions, which legislation is coming from the Constitution. So that's what. Yeah. So I agree. Jurisdiction is synonymous with power. That they have a right to exercise power over people and property in a certain area. That's what jurisdiction is. So the other question here, and this is for Liam. I'm not sure, but I think Liam is actually overseas. I don't remember if it's Ireland or not, but I think that's where he's writing from. He says, why do you say Constitution and laws and not government regulation? I do. I just lump them all in. I've said I just don't every time go through and say regulation, statute, rule, ordinance, bylaw. I've had someone in Australia throw that. It's not a statute. It's a bylaw. Wait, I used the wrong. It's no statute, mate. It's a bylaw, eh? Get it right. So it doesn't matter because when it comes down to, it's just a rule written down by men and women. It's a rule created by men and women who force us to pay them. So you don't always have to spell it out. Sometimes I say they're special rules or government rules. So it's all coming down to the same thing. Is this because of case law and there is no laws such as just precedent? No. From what I understand, jurisdiction comes from the man, and he has jurisdiction over himself, his property, and anyone in contract or employed by him. That may be a contractual power to act in a certain way, yes, but that's not what they're talking about. The government has no jurisdiction because if they did, you would have no rights. Well, they don't think you have. Just to use it as a colloquialism, to ease conversation, yeah, they don't think you have any right to anything. Is this presumption correct? Yeah, they don't see that you have any right to do anything. When it's convenient for them, then they'll say you have a right to due process and stuff like that. But that. Come on, that's just lip service. It's PR. It's public relations. Is it possible that what you think is real is just a public relations scheme? And that's all those things have to do with. The Constitution is just public relations. That's all it is. When it's convenient, they make it look like they're following it. Like the circus that just happened in November. Okay? By the way, we have discovered false claims, corruption, and the way they reacted to the motions to dismiss. We know you were on the right track, so I appreciate that. So, jurisdiction, big issue. Big issue. They'll always insist that they have it, and they'll go so far as to make these ridiculous claims. We have jurisdiction because we said so. That's a direct quote. They don't always say that, but you're talking to usually a lot of lawyers and whatnot, so they'll try to cloud the issue with their legalese, and that's why I was so surprised to have pseudo skeptics or so-called skeptics tell me that I'm some kind of idiot because I don't give any credit to precedent, tradition and precedent. No. Tradition and precedent have nothing to do with whether a written instrument applies to somebody or not. It's got nothing to do with that. So that's why I don't follow this thing that something is true just because someone says so. And skeptics are supposed to follow the same line. That's supposed to be what makes you a skeptic, basically, without getting too technical. Hey, I don't take something as true just because someone said it. And I don't take something as true just because 100 people said it. So, or just because you put somebody up on a pedestal and say that he's an authority figure. See, and that's the thing. You don't, not all appeals to authority are fallacious. But if you're saying that just because an authority said something was true, it makes it true because he's an authority. No, the authority, like if a heart surgeon says something and he doesn't give you any data to back it up, well, yeah, then that's fallacious. You got to have some damn evidence. Just because someone's an expert in something doesn't mean just their say-so. No, if they have looked at the data and there's been a consensus about what the data really, says, then it's yeah, I would say maybe it's you could take that as not being fallacious because he's basing it on the evidence and his reading of that evidence, and he's understood, let's say, how the study was done or whatever. So, we're up against a break. We'll take a call at the next, and then we'll see if we have ICBMcatcher, a major critic of mine, if he's going to be on the line. But we'll be back with your calls and more in just a few moments, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We're live February 11th. 2017. Glad to be with you here. 218-632-9399 is the number. And there is a prompt. There'll be a recorded message. I think I played part of it last week. There is a code, 2020, and the pound sign. That'll get you in. And it should say that on the recording. So you don't want to go through that. All you got to do is IM me at Frank Rizzo 3 on Skype. We'll also get you up there. So she's been on the show before. We got Dorothy from Arizona. Dorothy, welcome back to the show. What do you have for us today?
Oh, hi. This is Darcy.
Yep, you're on the air. What do you have for us today?
Hi, this is Darcy. Hello?
Yeah. Apparently you can't hear me.
No, I can't. No, I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
I can hear you just fine. Yeah, you're on the air.
Oh, okay, great. This is Darcy. I had talked to you before about my case regarding fraud upon the court, and about now I just have some updates on that.
Okay.
Okay, so basically I have now asked for a new trial, and basically what I've done is that I've got 4 witnesses now that will verify to the courts that the opposing attorney used malicious prosecution. He's the one that harassed us and intimidated us and hired people to poison my service dog and assault us and different things like that. So I have witnesses now who are willing to testify. And so that's going to help, as well as, in Maricopa, they have this where you can get the electronic court records called the ECR. And I was not allowed access to the ECR, so therefore I never got the minute entries. I never knew when the final judgment dates were or any communication. I would call the judge and tell them that I am not getting the minute entries, and so they would say they would correct it, but it didn't get corrected until last week. So I was not given notification as far as deadlines. So therefore, we were not given access to the courts. And so that, of course, is an unfair advantage and also, considered ex parte communication, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Ex parte communication is grounds for disbarment.
Exactly. And so if the judge is communicating with the opposing party about deadlines and everything, and we keep calling and telling them we're not getting the minute entries and the notifications. The only time that I received something was up was when the opposing party would file on the turbo court. He would file something, then I would know that something was there, and so then I would see it. So then I would call the judge and ask them for the minute entry, and they would only send me that minute entry, but they would not send me all the other minute entries, which would be obvious that I'm not getting all the documentation and everything. And so, and then of course now we have witnesses to prove that the opposing party hired people to spy on us and to assault us, and in exchange for free rent and bribery and different things like that. Plus, I got the police report that the opposing party are involved in drug possession, which I don't think it should be a crime. But anyway, they are they were busted last April for drug possession, and even though I personally don't feel that drugs should be considered illegal and stuff like that. But anyway, that's a different story. But even so, it is considered illegal other than if you have a medical marijuana card.
Okay, we got to get to the meat of the issue here.
But the idea is that they did purposely violate the law in the sense, and the attorneys involved in that. And so he's not supposed to be participating in criminal activity and even representing clients that are involved in criminal activity. Isn't that right?
Of course.
So therefore, so we are going to file a bar complaint against him, but also ask for a new trial about the ex parte communication and about the new witnesses the 4 witnesses that will testify. And I have a sworn affidavit from each of them and the Declaration of Truth that they were told, to help them, the attorney to go against us in order for us to comply with to give up on our case and everything.
Do you have, so you filed a motion for new trial already, but there hasn't been a decision on it?
No, not yet. I haven't filed it yet. I'm going to, on Turbo Court this weekend, file it. And basically, it's based on the judicial misconduct and also, obviously, unfair and unbiased because she violated the oath of office of providing information to the opposing party, but not to us, and then fraud upon the court, and then the misconduct of the opposing attorney using intimidation and threats and bribery, and then about us not having access to the court records of deadline and minute entries and any communication from the court, even though I have numerous and repeated documents to prove that we've called and asked to correct that, and I didn't get access. Like I said, I didn't get access to the ECR until just last week. I went into the Maricopa Superior Court 5 times to show ID that I am who I am, and they kept telling me that I had access to it, but I couldn't get access to the communication until it was cleared up last week. And so, so that is where we are at this point. And then also, when we did, there were 2 counts. One was a motion for summary judgment, and the other one had to do with the well agreement. The one was heard about the motion for summary judgment, but the well agreement was never heard. She made a ruling on it without even having a trial, which isn't that a violation of due process?
Unless she's granting the motion for summary judgment, then it's not. And it would be a violation of due process if the judge granted summary judgment knowing that there were, valid issues of fact that were unresolved. Okay, but we're up against a break,
right.
And I think I've got someone who's calling here. But I'm glad for the update. Let us know when you get it filed and what kind of response you get. My name is Marc Stevens.
Okay,
You're listening to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We'll be back with your calls, and I think we've got a major critic on the line with us now. So hopefully, stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss it. Yes, welcome to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens. Website, marcstevens.net. 3 hours of anarchy radio. What we mean by anarchy is a rejection of the concept of having a violent ruling class, or any ruling class, and a rejection of the double standard that comes with it. That it's okay to lie, steal, kill, and cheat other people for no other reason you call yourself a government, or because no one has been able to show where an anarchist society has actually existed in contemporary life. That you reject the concept just because no one can give you an example. So I'm pretty stoked here. I hope this really is. We've got ICBMcatcher on the line. I've been looking forward to this. I always like the opportunity to confront a critic, especially one who has been so harsh and so aggressive as this guy. So I really hope this is him. And for those who may be saying I shouldn't be doing this, I disagree. There's a number of reasons. We welcome dissent here on the No State Project. Welcome it. And if something I said is wrong, if something I put out is wrong, and it's demonstrably so, I will correct it. 2, most of the critics will not confront me in real time based on the fallacious reason that I control the recording and of a live broadcast, and that I will not allow someone to speak or I'll just cut them off. It's not true. Even when the last critic that was on, it was recorded, unfortunately. They weren't able to do live, but they were able to get a copy of the recording, and they publicly stated, no, I did not edit it. So I prefer not to do the recording, but I like to have the opportunity here, if this is him, or we have other critics who are on the line today, I want to be able to show that I do not cut people off. I don't terminate the call. I will say I'm not going to tolerate verbal abuse, and if somebody has verbal diarrhea, I will use the mute button to get things back on in focus. So let's see. We got area code 443. You're live on the No Stay Project. Is this ICBMcatcher?
ICBMcatcher, that is.
All right, great. Glad to have you on.
Good afternoon, Marc. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, no problem. Looking forward to it. So the ground rules are simple, like you heard them. No profanity. Mm-hmm. If you want to insult me, right. That's right. Fine, but leave it as an insult and don't have a crossover into an ad hominem as if by using an insult as a response to a question. Okay?
Marc?
Yes?
I know how to have a civil conversation. You have nothing to worry about.
Okay, well, those are the ground rules, not just for you, but for anybody who wants to call in and has criticism. So let's get right into this. What is you have put up a BS alert, and that you have
BS alert? Yes,
you have completely debunked me. Now, let's go through it one at a time. What is one part of what I do, one argument and one position that you can debunk that is false? Let's start with one.
Well, let's start out with your favorite. That laws don't apply to you. Is that correct?
There's no evidence the laws apply to me, yes. Or anyone else.
Okay, so laws don't apply to anyone. Am I correct?
There's no evidence that political rules called laws and constitutions apply to anyone just because of their physical location, yes.
Okay. Well, about that, I say this. A law is nothing more than an idea. How can you possibly prove with evidence the existence of an idea? How would you do that? What evidence would there be?
You have the written rule that someone has written down. These are not subjective things. These are not abstract. There's a lot of abstractions involved, but the actual laws are objectively, observed. You can see them and you can read them. It may have started out as an idea in somebody's head, but everything starts out, as abstract in someone's head, and then you go through the right. You go, so they write these things down and then pronounce that they apply to everybody, and people believe that. So, but I've read But I've read your own. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I know that you have put comments up that you have agreed that there's no evidence the laws apply to anybody.
Correct. There's no law that any law. I'm sorry. There's no evidence that any law applies to anyone ever, because a law is nothing but a concept. There is no law. There is no law unless you have an enforcement component, which goes to your other, position, part of your position, that says laws are only enforceable at the end of a gun. Well, of course they are. That's the only way you would have a law. If you did not have, well, let me put it this way: if cops didn't have guns, if cops couldn't go hands-on with someone and take them into custody, there would be no law. It would be the honor system.
Well, there would still be a law, but it wouldn't be enforceable. There's still the law. It's written down. So I got to disagree with you there. They are written down. They're objective. It's not just it's not an abstraction. Now,
well,
let me finish. Let me finish. An abstraction is when they say that they represent the state, because that is just a concept in their heads. It may be written down on paper, but that doesn't make it real. Like, the law is real. These rules are real. The question is whether or not they actually apply to anybody. And you agree that they don't.
I'm kind of operating under the assumption, based on what I've heard from you, that laws are fiction and they don't apply to anybody, and just because they're written down doesn't mean they apply to anybody. Am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, I never said the law was a fiction. I said that citizens and nations and states and government, those are fictions. Those are public relation. I never said the law or the Constitution was a fiction. It's fictional that they apply to anybody, but I've never said that they were a fiction. They're clearly not a fiction. There are books filled with them. You can go online and you can read them. Again,
this is Mark. This is where your word mincing really starts to show itself, because if I understand what you just said, you admit, I guess, that the piece of paper that's the Constitution exists. Yeah. But that it doesn't mean anything. Is that correct?
No. What I'm saying is there's no evidence that these 4 pieces of paper actually apply to anybody and create obligations on them.
Okay.
So when you say one second, I got to address this. When you say I'm word mincing, what do you mean by that?
Word mincing is when, well, for instance, your entire position on what we're talking about right now is really just a different spin on your interpretation of these things. See, Mark, I know that I called you a snake oil salesman, but that's not a derogatory comment to me. I don't think you're dishonest. I think that you have found a particular spin on this. It's like when people say that cops are just men in costumes, instead of saying they're men in uniform or whatever. They just use a different word to make it sound worse. Where an arrest is a kidnapping. They put me in a cage. Those types of things. It's word mincing.
But how is that? How is my pointing out that laws are not abstractions, that they're real, that you can observe them? How is that word mincing? The examples you gave, I'll agree. Wait, let me finish. The examples you gave, I agree. That may be considered word mincing. But I don't see how that's the same here when I'm just saying that something that is real is not an abstraction. I'm just calling something what it is. So it's not a fair comparison there. And we got plenty of time. You call me a scammer, but you don't think I'm dishonest. So we'll discuss that when we come. We're up against the break, so just hold tight. I got to mute you up. I'll be back here on the No State Project in just a moment. Don't go away. Yeah, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens, author of Government Indicted and the website marcstevens.net. And we have a critic on ICBMcatcher from YouTube. He's been putting up a copy and paste BS alert on quite a few of my videos. And he, unlike, I got to give the guy credit, unlike the other critics, which is only a handful, he actually had the professionalism and the, well, I'm going to say it. He had the guts, to call and confront me in real time. So I do appreciate that. We give him an attaboy. I do want to point out right before I'm going to bring you back on here. There's something we have to deal with on the Saturday shows. We have the commercial breaks. When you call somebody a snake oil salesman and you call them a scammer, you are saying they are dishonest. So I just, before we get back into this, I want to know how you kind of try to reconcile that, how you can call me a scammer and a snake oil salesman, and then hold that you're not saying I'm dishonest.
Well, I don't think I ever called you a scammer. If I did, I retract it. The snake oil salesman, though, yes. Because a snake oil salesman isn't really lying. He's just putting his spin on something and selling it. Like I said before, I don't mean that derogatorily. No. I don't think you're dishonest.
But you put up scam alert, BS alert, and someone who's peddling BS and scamming is dishonest. The thing is, you misusing.
Scamming was never used. The word scamming was never used. If it was by mistake, and I take it back. But I don't think I ever said scammer.
Well, BS alert. And
that's baloney, right?
Yeah, well, I think you're misusing the phrase snake oil salesman. A snake oil salesman is lying. He's trying to tell you that. That's why they call they use the phrase snake oil, because he's trying to say that this will cure you of cancer. He's lying. Snake oil salesman is dishonest.
Okay, I mean, all right, okay, let me put it this way. In my context, I didn't mean it as being dishonest, because I do not think you're dishonest. As I said, I think that you put a certain twist on things, and you've created a little business over it or around it, your YouTube channel here. And I don't mean it derogatorily. I applaud you for building a business that you have over such baloney. I mean, it's amazing that you've done that.
Do you realize that, there was when Harry met Sally, you see, there it is again. It sounds like a compliment, but it's not. Okay, so to get back to this, you are claiming that you had my position wrong, that I've never claimed that laws are not real. You believe laws aren't real, and yet I think the evidence is against you there, because the laws are written, they're objective. And I clearly understand the whole map is not the territory thing. And like I mentioned before, that applies to when you start using the word citizen, nation, state, or you start saying government. That is where you're getting into the map is not the territory, where you're using, and that's reification, where you're using abstract words and acting as if they are actually real. So the laws are real. So I haven't lied about that. That's not BS. So unless you have some kind of valid point that you can make that would overcome the evidence of, law libraries and these books that, a lot of us have, look, the laws are real. They're there. The question is whether there's evidence they apply to anybody. So unless you have, or so you agree with, okay, so your point that laws don't exist, you're backtracking on that one also.
No, I'm just trying to wait for you to stop talking so I can finish a point.
I'm trying to keep this focused. All right, so what's your point?
Okay. I was simply trying to capsulize what I gathered from what you've said, that you don't believe laws apply to you. And then anarchy,
okay.
In an anarchistic society, there are no laws, there is no authority. So I kind of thought, and since you're an anarchist, that's what I was thinking you meant. But let's go to the application. That's fine. How could there possibly be any evidence, any law applies to anyone? It's something that cannot be proven with evidence. You can't have evidence of a concept or an idea. Laws apply because people, whether they agree or not, obey them, whether they want to or not, obey them, and because there's an enforcement component. And that's what I'm saying about what I thought your take on laws was. So so you believe that there are laws, but they don't mean anything.
No, I said that there was no evidence. And you can certainly prove that laws apply to somebody, because you could look where people have an agreement to play a game. Or let's say, obviously, that there's agreement when somebody goes into a boxing match that there are certain rules that they're going to comply with or they'll be ejected. So you can see the rules, and you can prove that, let's say, Mike Tyson and I can't think right now of another fighter, but you can show that they did agree. You would have written contracts that they agreed to get in the ring and follow certain rules to beat each other.
Sure. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So your argument that you can't prove rules exist. No, that just doesn't. And in your argument that you can't show that anyone that the rules apply to anyone, no, that falls too, because that's just one of many examples that we can give where you can prove that the rules do apply. To say that the rules only apply if there's an enforcement mechanism, no, I think you're missing the mark completely on that.
Well, this is another little word mince here, because first of all, let's go back to your analogy of the boxing ring. Mark, when you walk into a courtroom, you're acknowledging jurisdiction just by walking through the doors. So let's get that straight.
No, I'm going to have to
Go on
object.
to the-
No,
Okay.
because somebody
All right.
is.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, you're not right on that, because the fact is,
Okay.
if you are compelled, you are coerced to go. You're not invited to go. The facts are dead against you on that. People go to court to avoid having a warrant issued for their arrest and having an escalation of violence. They want to avoid going to the next step on the force continuum. So you're wrong about that. Your analogy is wrong.
Oh, I see. I'm wrong. Okay.
Well,
So,
wait a minute. I have no problem having a discussion with you. And if I'm wrong,
Okay.
I'll own up to it. But you've already
Okay.
been condescending to me a number of times, and
Mark, you will not own up to it. You will not own up to it, because from what I've seen of the way you operate, your tactics are to simply never concede even a fraction of a point on anything.
No, that's not true. If someone's correct, hey, let me finish. I was on the show last week during a live broadcast, and I had Eyal, who does No State Project Israel. He set my ass straight, hardcore, as far as my ethical inconsistency. So you can't tell me that I can't concede when I'm wrong. I had a major shift in the way I live my life. So to turn around and say that I accept the truth. If I am wrong on something, I accept it. And it's happened here on the show. But I'm giving you well thought out, lucid examples of why you're wrong, and you're not accepting it. So don't project. So you don't need to project that on me. If I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. So far, you're saying things that are demonstrably false. So saying that someone willingly goes into court and agrees, no, I'm going to point out that you're wrong, because people are there because they are being ordered to be there, and there's a force continuum in place if they don't comply. So me showing you that you're wrong is not me being an idiot or refusing to accept your position. I'm only going to accept your position if it's right. And so far you haven't been.
You think you're going to accept my position when you think it's right. So,
you have the opportunity to demonstrate that you are right. So that's where, if you can demonstrate that people are voluntarily going to court, then do so.
Okay, Mark, let's just get this straight, okay? If you believe there was no jurisdiction, they had no, I'm trying to put it in your terms. Their laws don't apply to you, they're fiction, whatever you want to call it. They have no jurisdiction. You just sit home and say, to hell with them, man. I don't have to do in there. They got no jurisdiction over me anyway. But when you walk in that ring, when you walk in the arena, you're acknowledging their jurisdiction. Otherwise, why would you ask them, which is what your I don't even want to call it a case, because you don't call it a case and you don't call it pleading. But otherwise, why would you then interact with them and try to get them to find you not guilty or drop the charges or dismiss the charges? Why would you look to them to do that? Why would you not just go, it don't mean anything anyway, and walk out?
Well, because, and I'm going to have to mute you up. We're on a break. I know you can't hear it. It's to avoid them going up the force continuum, very simply. And I want to get back to how you can try to prove that going into court is voluntary when we get back. Don't go away. We'll be right back here on the No State Project. Yeah, nothing like Pantera to start off the second of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM. And we've got a treat here today. Having a lot of fun. One of the most aggressive critics of mine on YouTube has joined us. And so I want to get right back to it. I do appreciate everyone's patience, and I need to point out, I'm going to do my best to get to everybody today. I always give deference to critics, though. I don't have many, and it's extremely rare to have them on the show. And it is very important to have them on. I think it's instructive. So if we can't get to everybody today, I will try to get after the show and go a bit longer for after the show so we have extra on the podcast. If not, then we'll have to make sure you guys are first in line on the Wednesday broadcast. We will be live Wednesday, February 15th. No commercials. So I want to bring them back, ICBMcatcher. And I did respond to this before. I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. Your question to me is, if I don't believe that there's any evidence proving that they have jurisdiction, and that's my actual position. I think you've been misstating that. a number of times. So your question is, if I don't believe that there's any evidence that of jurisdiction, why do I go to court and file a demur or a motion to dismiss and have them to dismiss? Because I want it to stop. They're the gatekeepers. Unfortunately, they're the ones that are who are enforcing this on me. So they're the ones that I'm going to try to get it thrown out. I'm going to go to the gatekeeper. I mean, and it just because someone files a demur doesn't mean they're acknowledging jurisdiction. So you can look on the other side of this. ACLU versus the NSA, where the NSA filed a motion to dismiss. They didn't believe the court had jurisdiction. File against the IRS. They'll file a motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. So just filing the motion in and of itself is not proof that you're agreeing the jurisdiction. Or am I getting your position wrong? I mean, help me out here.
It could be construed that way because you're not going there voluntarily. I can kind of understand that, but still, you're availing yourself of the system, which you say doesn't apply to you. Just like you avail yourself of the benefits of the Constitution. I mean, we're talking right now on a free swath of bandwidth here, and the government isn't interrupting you, saying, knowing that you're semi-anti-government, they don't interrupt you and shut you down. If you were arrested, you would be read your Miranda rights. You would be given your phone call and your opportunity to post bail. You would enjoy the benefits of the Constitution, yet it doesn't apply to you. So my point here simply is this. You may say it doesn't apply to you, but I say it will be applied to you. Okay. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not.
How is that a disagreement,
It applies to you. But, and see, wait, hang on just for a second. The word itself, apply, kind of goes both ways. It does apply to you because it's being applied, but it doesn't apply to you because you don't believe that it applies to you. That's kind of that's not a word mince. That's just the nuance of that word.
What I'm saying is there's no evidence that it applies and creates an obligation on me or anyone else. And I don't think you disagree with that.
Let me think. Yeah, I do. I do disagree with that because you agree to abide by the laws of the United States simply by staying here because you're not being held here against your will.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, because you stay here. If you come over to my house and I say, hey, Mark, before you come here, you got to wear a yellow shirt and walk backwards. And you say, well, I'm not going to do that. Okay, you don't have to come here. Or once you're in my house, look, this is our country. If you don't want to be a part of it, that's fine. But this is our country. We control this landmass by force.
Uh-huh.
In the end, ultimately, in the end, we control this landmass by force. So our laws will, in fact, be applied to you, even though you may not think they apply to you.
So you believe that there are citizens in states?
There are citizens in states as per the Oz that we all are a part of.
So that's a yes. You believe that the citizens in states are real?
They are as real as any concept can be. The Oz that exists between us and all the other Americans is self-evident. There's no denying it. It's you see it every day. You're a part of it.
Well, there's a lot of evidence contrary to a lot of what you're saying. So this is one of the things that makes my other critics run. If you believe that there are citizens, now a citizen is a member of the body politic owing a duty of allegiance in return for a duty of protection, that these are reciprocal obligations, each a consideration for the other. That's Luria versus United States, one of many Supreme Court cases that say that. So to have citizens in a body politic in a state, you have to have reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection. So let me ask you, what evidence, if any, exists that would prove that these reciprocal obligations actually were created and exist?
That they were actually created and exist?
Yes. What evidence is there? Let me finish. What evidence? I'm trying to answer your question so you know what I'm asking. What evidence, if any, proves that there are reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection?
The Oz that agrees, the Oz that exists between every American. That's what it is. There is no, and you see, this is where you establish you establish a faulty premise, and then you run with it as if it's real.
What's the faulty premise?
The faulty premise is that it's possible to have evidence for an idea.
No,
it's
I didn't say that.
Marc,
you're straw manning
let me
again
finish,
here.
Please.
But you're straw manning.
Okay.
I never said
Marc?
that. I've corrected you like 5 times on the show today. I never said that. You did. You're under the impression that laws aren't real. I'm saying to you that laws are real. Okay? They're not trying to enforce an idea on us. They are trying to enforce their written rules. And so I am not starting from a faulty premise. You have to get my premise correct. Now try again. Tell me what my faulty premise is correctly.
Marc, any law, no law actually exists. Because it's written on paper does not mean it exists. The law only exists because people acknowledge it and because it can be enforced. That's why a law exists.
I have a certified. Let me explain something. I have a certified copy of the Constitution. It is real. You can see pictures of it. It is real. I agree insofar as just because something is written down doesn't make it true, but to deny objective reality that laws are rules that are written down and to say that they don't exist, you're not identifying a faulty premise that I'm starting from. There is so much evidence against what you're saying. The laws exist. The constitutions are written instruments. Even the Supreme Court acknowledges they're just written instruments. George Bush said it's just a damn piece of paper. They do exist. My position is there's no evidence that these written rules written by men and women that force us to pay them actually apply to us and create an obligation. So again, I'm asking you, what is the faulty premise that I am starting from?
That there can be evidence that they apply to you. There can't be any evidence. It's impossible. It's like saying, Marc, where is the evidence that the words we're speaking mean what they mean? Show me the evidence that the words we speak to each other mean what they mean. The only reason that the words that we speak mean anything to each other is because you and I both believe through an Oz that they mean what they mean. That's the esoteric nature of what you're saying.
But that's not what my position is. You're getting it wrong. What I'm saying is that there are rules that these people have written down, and they're claiming that they apply to me and create obligations on me to do real things. And I'm saying there's no evidence of that. And you turning around and saying that that's a false premise because evidence is not required is the same tired, illogical garbage that critics have been throwing out. He who makes a claim bears the burden of proof. And you're saying that that's not true. Well, we're up against the breaks. We're up against a break. We'll be back here on the No Say Project in just a moment. Don't go away. Yeah, welcome back to the No Stay Project. For those listening to the live stream, you've got the great Cliff Burton pulling teeth back there. Glad to be back with you here for 3 hours of Anarchy Radio, talking with ICBMcatcher, fairly aggressive critic of mine who would like to see me out of business, and having a very difficult time trying to identify one false premise that I have put out there or how I'm spinning something so that it's not actually true. My position is that there's not any evidence to prove that these rules written down by men and women who force us to pay them actually apply to us and create obligations. And I've asked if there's ever, he believes that citizens and states are real, and I laid out what you need to prove that citizens exist, and so far he hasn't answered. So ICBM, let's try to keep this focused, because it's absolutely false that laws don't exist. There's just no evidence they apply to anybody. But I want you to show me what evidence you have to show reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection were created.
Well, you characterized me incorrectly as well. I'm saying that laws apply to you. They apply to you. They may not apply to you in your opinion, but they do, in fact, apply to you, because if you break the law, you can be screaming, this law doesn't apply to me all you want, as they put the cuffs on and as they put you in a cell, and you can keep saying these laws don't apply to me, and the cell door ain't going to swing open. These laws apply to you, as does the Constitution. So, I mean, can we move on to anything else, or are we going to just stick on this one thing? Because I got a couple other things that you're going to have to answer for.
Oh, really? That's
Yes,
how it's
sir.
going to work. But you have not presented any evidence. Just because somebody
There-
may... Wait,
Marc,
let me finish.
Marc,
Let me
okay.
finish. No, I can't have you talking over me. If you're going to say that the laws apply just because someone may throw me in prison, that's not evidence proving the laws apply. I can say that you owe me $1,000 and I'll beat the living hell out of you if you don't pay me. And if I follow through and beat the living hell out of you, that doesn't mean that you owed me the money. Even Scott Bales couldn't get away with that crap at the ASU Law School, saying that the evidence to the Constitution, a written instrument, applies to me is because they put other people in prison. No, even he had the smarts to acknowledge that was an argumentum ad baculum, but to save face in front of all those lawyers, he said that it was a non-fallacious use of that argumentum ad baculum, and of course they had to have me rushed out of there. So
Marc,
I'm giving you a lot of
okay.
time here, and I'm putting everybody off. So we have time. You need to present if you're going to make a claim that there are citizens and states, you're going to need to put some evidence on the table proving that there are reciprocal obligations. Don't just say they apply.
Okay.
You have to actually present evidence that reciprocal obligations were created.
This is the faulty premise I'm talking about. There can be no evidence. You cannot produce that which does not exist. You cannot produce evidence of a concept, an idea, and in this case, the idea that a law applies to you. There is no evidence. You can't. That's why you think this is such an impenetrable wall of logic, because it's linguistically impossible to show that there is evidence that laws apply to you. Laws apply to you because they will be applied to you, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you can overcome with force, but that's a different story. I mean, obviously we disagree. We're never going to agree on it. So, I mean, there is no evidence. What more do you want?
Okay, so you can't actually prove that there were citizens in states.
We were talking about, okay, as far as the citizens and states go.
Can you prove it?
Citizens and states.
Can you prove that they exist?
I can prove they exist by the collective agreement that they do. They do. There is
What
there is a
collective
United
agreement?
States.
Where's the evidence that
because-
there's a collective agreement? And let me preface this by saying that everyone from day one, this is historical fact, from day one, no one had a choice on whether there was a government. You paid or you went to jail, and especially back in 1775, you had your estate taken from you. The Quakers, can testify to matters like that. So where is the agreement when everyone is forced to pay?
Now we're talking about taxes.
Everyone is forced to
Okay.
pay. And you even made the remark before. I think you said, if you don't like it, get the hell out. Well, you didn't say hell, but if
No,
you don't like it, get out.
right.
So how is it that how is it that when everyone is forced to pay, that there's somehow some kind of collective agreement?
I'm not forced to pay. I want to pay taxes. I
Oh,
like
my
paying taxes because I consider it almost a cover charge or whatever you want. I don't mind paying taxes at all. I mean, I'd rather not pay as much. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
No. Whoa. You don't get to blow off a factually inconsistent statement by saying it's neither here and there. I do not accept platitudes on this show in this context. It's not going to happen. Whether I went through this same line with the host of Coast to Coast 10 years ago. The fact that a victim says they're happy to be forced to do something doesn't take away from the factual nature that it's a coercive relationship. So what your feelings on this are irrelevant to the facts that you are forced to pay, whether you think it's not forced or not. A lot of people would.
I've never been forced.
Sir, you are forced to pay.
I've never been forced to pay taxes. When has anybody forced me to pay taxes?
When has anyone forced you to pay taxes? Are you seriously trying to make a claim that you're not forced to pay taxes? Are you trying to say? Wait, let me finish. Are you
Marc?
actually saying that taxation is voluntary for everybody?
No, what I'm saying is I'm only forced if I refuse.
I'm going to let you dig your own hole here. I'm not even.
Right,
You're making such an unbelievably illogical and irrational claim that you're your own worst enemy. See, I'll throw an analogy out there. I'm only going to get shot. A woman can say, "I'm only going to get shot in the head if I don't spread my legs." Do you see how illogical and how irrational your position is?
Marc, what's illogical, I think, is that you are, as I said, you make claims in your own words. You couch them, you spin them, so that someone can't. Like I said, you cannot provide evidence for some things. I can't provide evidence that $1 is worth $1. It's worth $1 because if I hand you $1, you'll give me a piece of licorice back.
But you're showing objective proof there. And the thing is, the only one who look. ICBM, I'm going to call you IC for short. The only one who's spinning things here is you, because to get out of answering an honest question, a direct question, you spin it by saying, I don't feel that I'm forced. I'm only forced if I... So you're putting a spin on something. When there is a... Let me finish. When there is a rule that says if you don't pay X, that's a misdemeanor or that's a felony and you go to jail, you're paying under threat of going to jail. Whether you comply with that does not change the fact that it's coercive. And so it's your spin on something. To turn around, and we're up against the break, to turn around and put and say that I'm putting a spin when all I'm doing is giving you the facts. I'm not spinning reality. You're doing that in an effort to say it's not coercive. And so we'll address that on the other side of the break. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away. Yeah, as the years go passing by, I actually started doing what I do in 1996, which predated YouTube by 9 years. And those who are regular listeners to the show know that this radio show is only an extension of what I do during the week. I've said that many times, so anybody could tell I do the same thing on a consult that I do here on the show. I don't put on a show. I mean, it's called a show, but it's to help people. And we've been able to do that. And we will get to a point where we discuss how many people have replicated the success that I had and on 3 continents where the motion to dismiss has been granted many times, a lot of times with prejudice. So the idea that I'm not helping people is completely fallacious and that I'm ripping people off. No one has been able to show a single fact, one single fact that I've hurt somebody. That they were hurt from a direct result of working with me. And yes, and Jermaine, we've got to get him out of jail. Somebody has to know where in Canada he is being held so we can do the habeas corpus. But we have not forgotten about you, Jermaine. We will get a habeas corpus, but damn it, someone has to let us know exactly where you are, or the habeas corpus is kind of meaningless. So I want to bring back ICBMcatcher as his YouTube channel, and very aggressive. I don't know how I've been misrepresenting you. You've been very aggressive. You have this copy and pasting that I read on the last show, and you just copy and pasted in onto all the videos of mine that you comment on. So most critics of mine don't typically do that. They don't copy and paste this 200-word BS alert. So, but I want to get back to this thing that you're saying that my false premise. I don't think it's a false premise, and I think you failed to make a valid argument that laws don't exist. I think even my harshest critics would disagree with you. They are real. And so I do still want to hear if you have any evidence to support the claim that there are citizens and states by showing what evidence or proof you may have that reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection were actually created.
Well, one of the things I've noticed, Marc, is that one of your tactics is to throw something.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you right there. So you're gonna have to give me okay. I want to have a rational discussion with you. You've made certain claims. I've tried to walk you through this. So you're making a claim that there are citizens and states and that these rules apply to us and that they ultimately, we, meaning you and others, we have the enforcement, to get you to comply. And I'm trying to see if you have any evidence to prove that there are reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection, to prove that there are citizens and states backing up this use of force. Now, can you do that? Do you have proof of reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection?
Is it my turn yet, or what?
I only muted you because you wouldn't answer the question, and I may continue to do that. If you are not going to answer the question and keep derailing the conversation, I'm going to mute you so I can keep you on point.
Oh, I didn't even know I was muted. Okay.
Well, it's for the benefit of the audience too, and I did say I was muting you.
It's for your protection, is what it is, Mark.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Right, so am I muted? Am I muted again?
I will tell you when you are. You're not.
Okay.
Let's start with yes or no. Do you have evidence that proves that there are reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection?
Mark, I'm telling you, you're asking the premise is faulty because there can be no evidence of that type of thing.
You can't show that there's evidence of. All right. You can't. You're telling me you can't prove that citizens and states are real, that they exist.
No one can, because it's not a provable thing linguistically. What I'm telling you is you're asking for something that you know doesn't exist because you think it makes your point somehow.
No, you're strawmanning again. You're strawmanning again. Is there someone in the background with you?
No, Mark, I'm trying. This is my point. This is what I'm telling you. If you don't want to accept it, don't accept it. But what I'm saying is you're asking for something that cannot exist.
So you're telling me that even contractual obligations can't be proven to exist?
Not if you don't accept what's in the contract. Oh. What if you say, I know I signed it, but I don't accept it anymore. Well, I mean, there's a million ways you could look at that.
Can contractual obligations be created?
Of course they can.
Okay. So now, tell me why contractual obligations can be created through agreement on a piece of paper, but somehow reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection, which the Supreme Court has called contractual in nature, and that's the Dartmouth College case for one. Tell me why, because it looks like you have a double standard. Basic fundamental contractual rights and obligations can be created and proven, but for some reason you're saying that allegiance and protection obligations, or those reciprocal obligations, are impossible to prove were created.
Allegiance and protection are both provided to every American citizen.
Oh. But you can't prove
that
they're true.
Are you going to let me tell you why, or are you just going to keep talking?
Well, it's just, if you are going to give me actual proof that there are reciprocal obligations, yes, I'm willing to hear that. But given your position before, that you're asking for something that can't be proven, so if you have evidence proving that reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection were created, then I'd like to hear it.
In this case, you're saying that protection and allegiance don't exist. They're not being offered to a citizen. I say they are.
You can say that, but where is the proof of the reciprocal obligations? Let me finish.
The proof is this.
Okay.
My turn? I
said okay.
The proof is this. If you call the cops, they're going to come. If you are somehow abducted in a foreign land, the United States will do whatever they can to retrieve you, short of starting a war. But there is allegiance from the state to the citizen, and the citizen owes allegiance to the state if they stay here. The protection is given to you by the armed forces, which allow you to not have to have a palisade around your home to protect from marauding thieves. You also have the police. There is reciprocal Okay, I'll be done. You obviously want to talk. Go ahead.
You do understand that legally, and I reported this in my first book, they're not obligated to respond to a 911 call. There's no enforceable legal duty to protect you.
That's correct, but they do. But they do.
If there's no duty to protect you, and they admit that, and from a factual standpoint, that forcing people to pay you doesn't create obligations of allegiance and protection. If they're reciprocal obligations and there's no duty to protect you, doesn't it follow that there's no duty of allegiance to?
There is no, like you say, there's no reciprocal, but they do. But if they do protect you and they do show up, you keep going to the theoretical and the abstract when I'm talking about reality. If there is, even though there may be no legal obligation for the U.S. Army to protect you, they do. And even though there's no legal obligation for the cops to show up, they do. The fact that they do is your evidence.
No.
Now, when are you? Okay. So you don't agree with that either.
No,
when
and I'll
are we
explain it
move
to
on
you.
to the other things?
No, because you have to have. You have to have because an analogy would be that just because John Gotti protects Howard Beach, that the people are somehow obligated to him, that he's a legitimate businessman. He's not just a criminal. Because all that you're saying is that basically just because that a criminal organization, just if they do offer some protection and services like the numbers and that they're a legitimate organization. But we're up against the break now, so hold on 1 second. I got to mute you back up. My name is Marc Stevens. Listen to the No State Project here on LRN.FM. We'll be back in just a moment. I know everybody is. We've got a full line of. Wow, we've got a lot of callers. I appreciate the patience. I'll do what I can to get to everybody. If we have to go after the show, then we'll do that, and it'll be part of the podcast. But again, I give deference to, and I hope I don't offend anybody, deference to critics. So. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project. I'm your host, Marc Stevens. MarcStevens.net is the website. And contrary to what ICBMcatcher would like, look, and the evidence, you have this call, you have all the evidence on MarcStevens.net. If you're being attacked by a bureaucrat, even he agrees there's no evidence that their laws apply. We have a proven method, and we'll get into that in a moment. Motion has been dismissed many times. A lot of tax assessments have been thrown out. We've had felonies thrown out on 3 continents. So, I let the evidence do the talking. I've laid out my position, the argument, the facts that back it up. And so far, all ICBMcatcher can do is just get my premise wrong and say that there's no law that these apply. But because they enforce it, it somehow makes it right, and he thinks that just because the police do respond and services are done, like sanitation, that somehow creates a legitimate organization out of them. There's no actual proof that they're citizens, but just because people act that way. Somebody's asking me here, why don't you pick another point of mine that you disagree with and tell me why?
Okay, well, there are so many. Let's just look at why don't you post a win-loss record? Why don't you have a win-loss record? Why do you, unless I'm missing something on your site, why do you not post a win-loss record?
I post when we have things that win, and we post when people lose. Robbie called into the show less than 2 weeks ago when reported that he got convicted. We talk about the train wrecks all the time. Do I post something, like what you're saying, a win-loss record? No, I don't do that. I've never felt the need to do that. I tell people all the time that this is damage control, that even if you get a ticket or assessment thrown out, you haven't won. I just never felt the need to do that. I've never shied away from, and again, anyone can listen to the archives. Robbie, just go through
Sure.
It was definitely one of the last couple shows. So we don't shy away from I say, that you run that you're dealing with criminals, and so I'm not cherry picking. If someone loses, they come on the show just as much as if they want to. It's just like with you calling, and no one is compelled to call.
Mark, what evidence do you have that these people that you're calling criminals are criminals? What evidence do you have that they committed a criminal act?
Oh, okay, because they force strangers to give them money.
When you characterize it like that, of course, and this is what I'm talking about. You characterize it like that, and it sounds terrible. It's just like saying a cop is wearing a costume instead of a uniform. It's how you put it.
Is it factually inaccurate, though? Are they not men and women? Wait. Let me walk you through it. Let me walk you through it. Don't interrupt. Are they men and women?
Of course they are.
Do they force strangers to give them money?
They are men and women that have responsibilities given to them by us.
I didn't ask you that.
And they.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Yes,
because you want to. Mark, you're going to narrow me into your field of fire so you can't lose.
No, that's not the point. We're trying to get a point. We have to agree to the facts. You're saying I'm spinning it, and I want to see, based on what you're saying, I'm spinning it. Are they forcing strangers to give them money, yes or no?
They are not just men and women. And yes, they are forcing people to give them money at some point, yes. But they're not just men and women. They're men and women that have certain responsibilities given to them by society.
You can't prove that. And you, by your own admission, you can't prove that.
Mark, don't put words in my mouth.
No, wait. Now I'm going to mute you up there. No, you are the one. No, I'm not going to let you get away with that crap. You're the one who said that I'm asking for evidence where none is possible. So that follows that I'm asking for something that can't be proven. And now I'm putting that back on you. You're saying that they do have these responsibilities, and I'm taking your own statement. You're trying to make a point that cannot be proven because there's no evidence for that. Now, how am I getting that wrong?
Am I on the air or am I talking to you?
I'm asking. When I ask you directly, I can do the two things. When I ask you, when I ask you my question, I'm unmuting you.
Okay, I get it. Mark, I've said this before. Okay, you keep spinning it your own way, but these people have responsibilities. You're asking for the evidence that they have responsibilities. The evidence is all around us. The evidence is that I say they can. I gave them the permission to do that because I voted for them or I voted for someone to put them in office, and millions of other people did the same thing. I gave them that responsibility, and I expect them to live up to it.
But you've already stated that for the reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection could not be proven. There's no evidence for it. It can't be proven. So the statement you're saying, you have no proof and you can't prove it.
There is no proof. It can't be proven. They're different things. You're purposely asking for something that doesn't exist because you think it proves your point.
But you think that you actually said you believe that citizen states exist. And I broke it down and told you, let's define the term, and we know that citizens are members of the body politic owing a duty of allegiance in return for duty of protection. These are reciprocal obligations, one in consideration for the other. And then you're turning around and saying that can't be proven. So you're making assertions that you can't prove. So that's irrational. So, so let's get to another point. Another one, something else, because I think you failed completely to show that I'm being dishonest.
Of course you do. Of course
sure,
you're
but I'm
that.
giving. See, the important thing here is I'm giving the listener the basis for my disagreement with you, and there's a factual and rational, logical basis to it, so that an honest critic or someone on the fence can make up their mind. You are saying this can't be proven. So, what is another point? Something else that I've done that you disagree with, where I'm being where it's BS. What else am I saying that's BS?
Boy, as you go through your litany of objections and things like that, so much of what you say is based on this same premise that it's all fake. It's all an act. And And for instance, the thing about being physically located someplace, okay?
Yeah.
Jurisdiction, everything that I've seen about jurisdiction has the word geographical in it somewhere. Yet you say that just because I'm here, it doesn't apply to me. Well,
I didn't say that.
All right. It does.
No, get the position
right. Sorry. Go ahead.
The position is there's no evidence to prove that just because I'm physically in Arizona that your Constitution and code apply. That's a world of difference.
Okay, does it?
Different.
All right, let me ask you this. Does it or doesn't it? Okay, we'll move on to evidence in a second. Does it or doesn't it? Does the United States Constitution apply to you or doesn't it?
There is there's no evidence to prove that written instrument from 1787 applies to me and creates obligations on me.
Okay, so when I ask you for a yes or no, you can embellish, but when you do it to me, I can't.
Oh, I understand
I understand the rules. Okay.
Wait, no. The rule is I answered with a direct no, and I explained so that you knew exactly what my position was. When I do that to you, you're not. Wait, I'm going to mute you again. When I call you out on that, and we have we now have an MP3 record of it. Okay, when every time I've called you out on that and muted you up, you can hear that you're not answering the question. That's why I'm doing it. And that's the only reason why I'm doing it. It's not to silence dissent. I've had you on now, and I'm taking almost the entire show with you. So we're plenty of time here. And you're free to call in if you want to call into the Wednesday show also. That's fine. So just, you have to, I answered your question. And I was brief in my explanation because I don't want to be taken out of context. So what's your follow-up?
Okay, so you mute me when I say something that doesn't fit your parameter. Okay, everyone should know that, unless I'm muted right now.
Whoa, no, you're not. No. If I'm asking you a simple yes or no question and you're refusing to answer the question, I'm going to mute so that I can re-ask the question and keep the conversation focused. I don't have unlimited time here, and I also have a whole line of callers who some of them may just want to talk to you. I don't know. They have to Skype me or email me and let me know, hey, I want to talk to this guy. So I'm trying to be courteous to everybody involved.
Okay.
There is an audience, and we need to keep it focused.
I want to be a courteous guest as well. I mean, if you want me to call back a different time, I will. I mean, you've been very gracious in allowing me on in the time. So what do you want to do?
I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to have you on for at least another segment, and I want to get to what and to just let you know in advance. And we are up against a break. I can hear the music. I know you guys can't. I want to address your claim about it never working or practically never working. So that's what we'll address when we get back here on the No State Project. So don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No State Project, the third of 3 hours of Anarchy Radio here on LRN.FM. Just remember, we have a fourth hour of Anarchy Radio every Wednesday now. We have a commercial-free broadcast that if you're not able to make it on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, then you may do so immediately after because it will go directly to YouTube. From there, but we will be live February 15th. Today is February 11th, 2011, and very common logical fallacy that I've been accused of, but I think it's clear that my caller, my guest here, is falling for this one. It's the reification fallacy, also known as concretism, or the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. It's a fallacy of ambiguity when an abstraction, an abstract belief, or hypothetical construct is treated as if it were a concrete, real event or physical entity. But ICBM, I'm glad you're still with me. You've also made a statement in your BS alert about, and I know you've gone back on this, that it's never worked. But I think you've said it's practically never worked. Is that correct? The way
I've always said practically. I never said there's almost nothing that's never. So I would never said that.
Okay, well, that's my mistake. I thought you had said never worked, but
no, of course not. A broken clock is right twice a day, of course.
Yeah, that's true. However, I don't think I don't know if we can say that about your call today. But we still have some time.
I wish maybe your mute button would go on the fritz for a little while so people would hear what really goes on. But anyway, go ahead, buddy.
What really goes on? What?
Well, I mean, you mute me several times, and then you're talking to me, and what are you listening to? Your silence? And go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
There's nothing being hidden.
Well, then why are you muting me?
You were talking over me and you weren't answering the question.
I see. All right, go ahead, Mark.
I gave you the ground rules right from the start. They were very simple.
Okay. Right. You can talk over me, but I can't talk over you. Got it. Go ahead.
I think I've been pretty respectful about not talking over you. But the question that I gave before the break had to do, I wanted to address that. So do you believe that I am, it's BS that I've been able to help people on 3 continents get many, many tickets and assessments thrown out? That it's not an effective way to defend against bureaucratic attacks?
I would only answer yes to the first couple seconds of that, not the many. And that part we don't know because you don't post. There's no way. What's your batting average? I mean, that's what I want to know. I'm sure that you have helped some people, but I don't know how many because you won't divulge that. If you have helped 1 out of 1,000, that's no good. If you've helped 1 out of 2, that's real good. But we don't know what your record is.
Well, you have to take into consideration that if we just go since the YouTube channel and knowing that anyone can look up my website on Alexa and know that I have absolutely pitiful traffic to my website. I can't hide it. Anyone can look at it. You can look at my YouTube channel. You know I'm not working with tens and tens and tens of thousands of people, so that if I trot out, let's say 50 times the motion to dismiss has been granted, you know it's not 50 out of 100,000. I can't lie about the numbers, okay?
I know.
Okay.
It just makes it hard to judge your effectiveness. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying it's hard to judge your effectiveness if we don't have a batting average for you. I mean, if you can't provide evidence of your effectiveness, I'm not sure how we can judge that.
Well, I do have evidence of quite a few people that have had success on 3 continents. I just posted another one from Australia.
Of course, yes. You have had evidence. You have evidence that your method works. But the question is, how often does it work?
The numbers that I can throw out at you, and I know this opens up for some criticism, and it's understandable. This criticism I get, okay? But it's when people say that there's no way it had anything to do with my material, then that's where I draw the line. That's just not honest criticism. About 70.
I wouldn't know. I don't know.
Well, about 70. I've said this number 70% for 10 years. 70% of the time on traffic tickets, 75% of the time, the ticket is thrown out. A lot of that has to do with the police officer not showing up.
75% of the time, Mark?
Yes.
Mark, you should know, okay, I personally have had well over 250 traffic tickets in my life. I've been in court a lot, hundreds and hundreds of times.
Okay.
I've seen people use this ahead of me, and I've been in court when people use these types of things, and I think I might have seen it work once or twice, and that's because the cop doesn't show up. I've had a lot of cases dismissed because of other reasons. So judges dismissing cases, I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah. For
you to say that you're effective, you're 70% effective, man, that is a tall claim with no evidence to back it up.
No. I don't have all the evidence, but to say I don't have evidence to back it up, that's wrong. I do have evidence. You can go back.
I absolutely agree that you win some of these cases. I absolutely believe that. But can we? You have some level of effectiveness. Can we move on to something else, please?
Some level of effectiveness. I'll give you that. Okay. Wait. No, I want to compliment you. You saying that, it puts you head and shoulders above most of the critics, because most of the critics will deny that there's any effectiveness to it. That even when the motion is granted, it had nothing to do with what. So will you at least concede that when the motion is granted, it's because the judge more than likely agreed that the motion had merit?
I don't know why they dismiss him. It doesn't really matter. A win's a win.
Well, no. Well, when it's a criticism about my work, it absolutely is relevant to whether, okay, because when the judge grants the motion to dismiss that I wrote, doesn't it follow that he agreed that the motion had merit?
When that happens, yes, but
Thank
we
you.
don't know how often that happens.
Well,
Yeah. If you produce a document and the judge says, yeah, I agree with this, yeah, of course, that's obviously a success, no doubt about it. But once again, if you do that 1 out of 1,000 times, you're a snake oil salesman.
Stop. A snake oil salesman fails 100% of the time. Come on, their victims fail 100% of the time. Come on, stop that. Don't.
Exaggeration. Sorry. Okay, exaggeration. What I'm saying is, if you're successful 1 out of 1,000 times, you're full of baloney. If you're successful 500 out of 1,000 times, man, that's something to brag about. But we don't know what you are. I say based on the nature, can I just finish a point?
I wasn't
just by the nature of the things you say, the fact that you're not a lawyer with no legal background, I believe, and this is my opinion because I don't have any facts, but it's my opinion based on the nature of your comments that, and plus I know how judges operate. They ignore you. They usually laugh and just keep on doing what they were going to do anyway, and your baloney has no effect on the proceedings whatsoever.
Baloney. But you've already conceded. Happens. You've already conceded that I have evidence where judges have not seen the motion as baloney.
Sure, of course. You have some wins, no doubt about it.
Okay, now I agree. Most people, a lot of times when people get these things thrown out, I'll only mention it on the air, but someone just had a traffic ticket kicked the other day. I don't have any documentation, so I don't normally post it or say anything about it. Do I say every time someone loses? No. I don't always get the documentation, and people, a lot of times when something's tossed out, want to just get the hell out of there, and so we don't have documentary proof.
Mark, I'm referring to you and your personal efforts. We can't say what other people do. I'm asking about you, and when you are either on the phone with an IRS person, with your client on the other line, or whether you go into court personally. That would be fine.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that I work with, but they don't always get the documentation back to me, and they don't want to ever set foot there again. So can I show – do I document, and can I publicly document every single person that I've worked with and whether they won or lost? No, I don't have all that information. I don't, because the main focus
that's fine. And you wouldn't be expected to. You couldn't get it.
And I'm going to blow right through this break to save some time with you. The main focus of what I do is not to get tickets thrown out. The focus of what I do is to expose these people as the crooks that they are. That men and women...
As the crooks that you think they are.
You interrupted me. They're not crooks solely because I think they are. They're crooks because they force perfect strangers to give them money. I have a basis for that. I have evidence to support my conclusion that they're crooks. Wouldn't you agree? And we're off air.
I would not agree. There are other factors that you purposely leave out to support your point.
I don't need to put in the allegation that they are that they have responsibilities, because by your own admission you can't prove that. So let's stick to what we can prove.
No. Yes, you can prove they have those responsibilities. Man.
You've already said you can't prove that there are obligations of allegiance and protection. So you've already said that. Unless you want to go back on that, which is fine.
No, I would like to roll the tape back, because that's not what I said, and that's not what I meant. We're not going to go back. We got to go forward here. We can go back with the tape if you want to. What I'm saying here is, what I'd like to move on to, with your permission.
Yeah, we're running low on time, so that's why we're off air.
I'll be very quick.
I'll
be very quick. I say that your methods and your outlook and your whole thing is never going to amount to anything more than it is. I mean, you got 7,900 subscribers. There's teenage girls that give makeup tips on YouTube that have 1 million subscribers. If your ideas are so fabulous and so effective, why hasn't it swept the nation?
Do you think that popularity determines whether something has merit?
No.
Okay, so why would you? So whether or not I have more subs than a 17-year-old girl is irrelevant to whether...
it's not.
Let me finish. The number of people who subscribe to my channel are completely irrelevant to the merit to the positions that I'm taking. So I can show a motion to dismiss that was. I could even show you a felony that was thrown out at a preliminary hearing because of the work I did with the guy. Now, whether anyone sees that is irrelevant to whether that happened and whether it's true. So why don't I have the subs? Well, it's because I know that the material that I put out is extremely controversial. So much so.
It's not.
Let me finish. You asked me. Let me finish. I can even document to you, and you can go to my website. I have a sitting city councilman on record saying the evidence of their jurisdiction is because they said so. No one would cover the story. No one, even in an election year. I even have Fox News editor on the phone. You can hear it. He says your argument has no merit. You can hear him. It's because of the controversial nature of it. It goes against the orthodoxy. I'm not saying there's a grand conspiracy, but I did have a monetary drive to raise the money for a professional, nationwide known publicist. They gave the money back saying that I was unbookable. So I understand I don't have a marketable show. I'll give you that. That's one of the first things that you're right about. It is not a marketable show. I get it.
That's not my point. That's not my point. My point is, why is not the anarchist philosophy, why is not your whole belief system, why is it not more popular than it is? And the answer, I'm going to just do one of these stupid answer my own question things. The answer is not because of popularity issues. It's because people see it, recognize it for baloney, and say, we don't want to live like that.
No,
Anarchy is not a new idea.
I disagree
Anarchy
with you.
is not a new idea.
I didn't say it was. And see, right now, veganism is a good analogy for, because people still mock veganism, yet it's growing. And my show is growing. I don't have 6,000 subs anymore. I got almost 8,000. So the show is growing. So just because my show doesn't have 500 affiliates is not a statement about the merit of the position. It may not be an idea whose time has come. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You're going to make an appeal to popularity?
If more people look, you can't say that it doesn't get out there. There's no way that you can say that there is an exposure to this. If your ideas had merit, if your ideas were effective, one person would tell another. You'd go viral on YouTube, and the number of subscribers would only be an indication, but your ideas being accepted by millions of people would be the real proof, and they're not, because millions of people know it's baloney.
No, you're making a fallacious appeal to popularity. The number of people who...
I'm not...
Let me finish. The number of people...
No, let me finish, Mark. Let me finish, please, because it's not popularity. It's someone looking at something and going, no, that's stupid. I don't agree with that. That's what that is. It's not popularity.
Yeah, but you're trying to make a statement that I can prove to you. You can look and I'm getting new subs every single day. I'm not getting thousands, but I'm getting new subs every day. So the idea that my little show isn't growing, or that Free Talk Live that is very anarchistic and voluntarist in nature, that's a very large show. That's a nationally syndicated show. They have 150 some odd affiliates. So your argument doesn't, just because my anarchist show doesn't have a huge audience, doesn't take away from the fact that anarchy does have an audience and is growing all the time. So you are trying to make an appeal to popularity. You're saying that...
No, I'm not.
I have to mute you. You're saying if my position was true, if my position had merit, then more people would agree, and I would have a larger audience. I mean, isn't that what you just said?
When I'm off mute, I'll speak.
When I ask you the question that way, like I've said to you before, I can unmute you with my other hand. I don't think I have your position.
Okay, what am I? Am I on or off?
Oh, come on, man, stop that. Give me a break.
Well, okay, all right.
When I told you, when I ask you the question, okay, I'm expecting you to answer, so I'm unmuting you. So I told you that already.
Okay. I understand. Now, what you're talking about popularity versus not. What I'm saying is people look at your ideas, they hear them, and they reject them. It is, and it's not your show specifically. I'm only referring to. I'm referring to the entire philosophy of anarchy. It's been around since the beginning of time almost, and it's never taken off because it doesn't work. It's baloney.
No, find one person. Are you telling me that you reject the anarchist philosophy that violent ruling classes are wrong? Are you actually for violent ruling classes?
That is not anarchy.
Yes, it is.
The definition of anarchy is no authority.
No, it says no rulers. And that's why I said no ruling class. Do you believe that there should be a violent ruling class?
Well, wait a second. You throw the word violent in there.
Do you believe there should be a ruling class?
I believe there will naturally evolve a ruling class in every group, whether we like it or not. It happens all the time.
I'm asking you about if you agree with the philosophy or not. Do you believe there should be a ruling class? Yes or no?
Yes, because
Wow.
yes, because some people are smarter and more capable than others.
And so they have a natural right to rule other people.
No, it's not a natural right. It just happens naturally.
It happens
it's not.
naturally.
It just. If you have any group of any size, leaders will naturally emerge, rules will naturally emerge, and rules will naturally evolve into laws. That's just the way it happens.
Well, there's a difference between a leader and a ruler. And what I'm talking
Correct.
about is where it's basically the ruling class is in place by force. And so I don't think people disagree. It's just like with veganism. People don't necessarily disagree with the philosophy or the ethic that it's wrong to hurt others. They just make a double standard that, well, in this situation, it's okay. And that's what you do with having a ruling class. People may say, but what about the roads? Or it happens naturally. That's just an appeal to nature fallacy. That doesn't mean that the underlying philosophy or principle is wrong. You're not saying...
You can't have a ruler. You cannot have a ruler unless that ruler has the option of force available to them. They're not a ruler. They're simply not a ruler anymore.
And that's the ethical and moral problem with it. That's why, as anarchists, we reject that. And like I said on the show a number of times, I try to say it every show, is that we reject the double standard that it's okay to lie, steal, kill, and cheat other people for no other reason than you call yourself a government. Because you've tried to make excuses for the men and women forcing us to give the money, basically forcing perfect strangers to give the money. You try to make an excuse. You try to excuse that immoral behavior by saying, but they have responsibilities given to them by society, which is completely irrational because, one, you said you can't prove that there are reciprocal obligations. You said that you're asking for proof where it can't be given, so it's not provable. Plus, the evidence is against you that society is not agreeing to this ruling class because everyone's forced to pay.
You take everything I say and you move it around. That's fine, Mark. It's your show.
There's an audience. People are going to be able to hear and make up their mind for themselves. Now, we're almost out of time. I gave you I'm glad you called in, and you're welcome to call in again. I would appreciate, and you don't even have to give me a heads up, but it would be nice so that I can get you in line faster, at the beginning.
Sure. Nice talking to you, Mark.
Well, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to summarize your position about why you think I'm selling or peddling BS and why I'm a snake oil salesman.
Well, because what you say is purely theoretical. The whole concept of anarchy has never and will never work because it's just it's not practical. It just doesn't work. If it would have worked, it would have worked by now because many people have tried it. What you're saying pushes anarchy, and anarchy is baloney.
Isn't what people call government do with their laws and states and nation, isn't that, according to you, isn't that purely theoretical and not subject to proof?
No, it's practical because it actually happens.
But it can't be proven. There's no evidence necessary. It can't be proven.
The only thing that can't be proven in your eyes is that it doesn't apply. You cannot say that it doesn't happen. You can't say you're not in handcuffs. You can't say you're not in jail. It does happen. Whether it's right or wrong is probably more in line with what your question is.
But that's not my position. What you're talking about is not my position at all. My position has always been very simple. There's no evidence to support the claim that just because I'm physically in Arizona, their Constitution and laws apply. That's my position.
Well, we're back to say, I understand, but like I said before, there can't be any evidence. There can't be any evidence.
So it's purely theoretical.
No. We'll have to continue different time. It's an agreement. We agree.
Okay. So, I appreciate that. That was a beautiful way to end the show. I do appreciate you calling in. And feel free to call in again. Like I mentioned before, give me kind of a heads up that you're in the queue so I can get you on first. Okay.
All right, Mark. Good evening.
I appreciate it. ICBM caller. From YouTube. We'll try to get to as many people as we can in the next few segments, so don't go away. Yes, welcome back to the No Stay Project. I'm Marc Stevens, author of Government Died. I appreciate everyone's patience. We have 2 segments left. I'll do what I can to go after the show, but I can't. I don't have much time. But I think the record is clear that. Dissent is welcome. We gave most of the show to ICBMcatcher. I think I probably shouldn't have laughed at the end there, but I wanted to. It should have been just a good-hearted discussion. To turn around and say that my position, based on evidence and basic principles of logic, that when someone makes a claim, there has to be proof and a logical basis for it. To say that's BS and baloney, and to say that. And my evidence being that it's just a written instrument that just men and women forcing us to give the money, those are facts. To turn around and say that my position is theoretical when his position was that none of this can be proven, and it's not theoretical, it's practical. See, once you get in the realm of practical, you have to have proof. That's the difference between theoretical and practical. He says it's practical. Well, once you make it practical, that requires proof. I shouldn't have laughed, but it was the natural response to having my work be declared to be theoretical. I know he's been really patient, and I hope I didn't offend, but we have someone in California, area code 949. I guess that's Los Angeles. I think so, but 949, you're live on the No Stay Project. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it is John over in California, SoCal area. How are you, Mark? I just want to say real quick that you are an inspiration to many, and the things you're fighting for and that you stand for are bigger, which is why, the last argument you were on, he was saying, well, why hasn't it went viral? Why has it? Well, the issue is everyone knows that they're just a number. Everyone knows that the government is corrupt. The issue is no one is willing to fight against it because of the enforcements behind it. So, yeah, of course, there's only going to be a small portion of people who are willing to stand up against this, regardless of the fear they may have of the consequences. Well, but for what's right.
Yeah, but I think on the other side, another way of looking at it, though, is, well, one, 2 girls, 1 cup is the type of video that goes viral. So the thing is, if you look at the practical part of and the way YouTube works, and I am by no means a tech guy, everyone knows that, but I know that YouTube has an algorithm that heavily favors content producers that are doing it every day. Sometimes,
of course. Why is that? Why?
There's more people viewing.
Because they don't want people to know. They don't want this to become big. They don't want people to know that they have a right. You can stand up and be a human. They don't want you to know that you can stand up for yourself. That's the reason that this type of content is pushed aside.
Well, I think I don't know if we can. I think it's true that they don't like it. I don't think they're pressuring something like YouTube to change the algorithm. I mean, if I see, the thing is, if I could put content out every day, I'd get more viewers. Because what their algorithm does is when you see the recommended videos on the right-hand side, the content producers that are putting out a consistent daily or twice daily content, their videos are going to be put in the recommended part. I can't possibly, with the work that I do, put content out every day. That would help. That would certainly help. But my channel is growing. And remember, my channel was taken down by mistake 6 years ago. So I lost my whole initial subscription base. But it's coming back.
Regardless of like your content is just exponentially useful and valuable on every platform or forum available. It's the issue is that, you know, like people, like the majority people, for example, him and his whole rules, and you know, like, oh well, the rules are there and they can be enforced. Well, what if like the rule was, hey, we need to fornicate with your wife every night? Would your opinion on, hey, the rules aren't fair apply then?
Well, according to him, it would.
Yeah, exactly. So regardless, I want to get off topic of him because like really like what you're talking about is important and valuable and has reason and evidence behind it. So I don't want to argue with him. I have a unique situation, whereas I was traveling and I had, you know, the no license plate, and I had it said, you know, do not hire for non-commerce, blah, blah. And I had an encounter with a cop, and he, before I got in my vehicle or my automobile, he stated that we had a conversation, and he was like, hey, you know what? I understand your views and you may be right, but it doesn't matter, blah, blah. Anyways, he told me not to drive or get in my car and travel, and I did so. And he pulled me over, and as he was pulling me over, I went to go pull out my phone to videotape the encounter, and what happened was my phone slipped between my seat. I went to go grab it, hit the curb, and now they're saying, first off, the cop was mad that, so I went to jail, I was arrested, and he's saying, he charged me with kidnapping, right? Kidnapping. So I was in jail with $100,000 bond on a charge that I didn't do simply because of something I said while he was arresting me. And when I got to my arraignment, they were like, oh, not kidnapping. We need to get something that we're DUI, obstruction of justice, driving without a license. And, you know, they just did whatever it took to be in trouble. Oh, and the big one is felony evading. And they put me in jail, and my bond was $100,000. I couldn't bond out, and I went to the arraignment, whatever. They didn't allow me to say anything. They told me I had to sign this paper. They locked me in a cage. I was tortured. I was beaten. And now I went to my pretrial, and when I went to my pretrial and I tried to represent myself, they automatically assigned me a lawyer, a public defender, and pushed my case to a continuance, waived my right to a speedy trial, and now I'm confused as to what my next step should be.
Wow, I really, again, I'm glad you stayed on, but I have to get the critics on. It's so rare. Were you indicted, or was it just by complaint?
So they took me to jail, and now I'm out trying to fight it. It's right now it's still in process.
How are you charged, though? I got to be quick. How are you charged? By indictment or complaint?
The charge.
Did a grand jury indict you?
No. I haven't had. I'm at the pre-trial stage right now.
I understand. I got that. I'm trying to get a little more context so I can better help you get out of this mess. Did a grand jury indict you?
No.
Okay. Do you know if the public defender waived your right to a preliminary hearing?
No, they didn't.
So, how? Your Honor, we're in pre-trial and we're supposed to... you're supposed to have the preliminary hearing prior to entering a plea, or at least soon after that, and definitely before a pre-trial. So I don't, this is tough because if the attorney doesn't want... One, the attorney needs to be at least standby. And you need to get a preliminary hearing to determine probable cause. And if it was waived, you need to argue ineffective counsel.
So my preliminary, like, what's going to happen, at least for when I went up there and I spoke for myself, and what happened was I was trying to defend myself, and in the middle of me doing so, the public defender kept coming in like, Your Honor, my client. And I was like, you're not my lawyer. And she kept speaking on my behalf. So I told the lawyer, like, hey, like, pretty much what happened is they ended up intimidating me, and to the point where there was no one else in the courtroom, only officers of the court. And now I told them I don't want to waive any rights for preliminary hearing. So now I have a court date on the 21st. That is, then we're going to move from pretrial. And then he said I can move to the preliminary hearing. I want to know what motions I should file before going to this, so that when I get there, I have something on record that I can argue.
Well, the problem is that you have an attorney that if he's not standby, you can't argue anything and file any motions without him.
Well, but here's the thing is, like, why, like, I never signed any papers. I still, to this day, after being imprisoned, $100,000 bonding out for all this money, like, I still have never, I don't even have a police report. I don't have anything besides what they told me at court that I was being charged for. And I told them I didn't want an attorney, that if they wanted to provide some, I would use whatever they had to provide as legal assistance, not a representative for me.
Okay. Well, what I would suggest is getting in immediately a motion to have a preliminary hearing to determine probable cause. I would file a demur based on lack of evidence proving jurisdiction. I would file my discovery and Brady request. Now, I know it's limited in California. I get that. But you don't need to get into the police officer's files in order to impeach him as a witness. You just need to be able to show they don't have personal first-hand knowledge, and that's easy to do. They'll admit that. So those are the things that I would do. And I don't want to on air right now. I'm trying to save as much time as possible because I have like 15 calls that I'm not going to be able to get to today. But this will be available in the podcast. So if you weren't writing it down, you can get it in the podcast later. That's what I would do. Demur with the Brady request, which also goes with the motion for judicial notice, and I would get in a request for the preliminary hearing to determine probable cause. You were charged with a felony. They can only do that if they don't do it by indictment, they have to give you a prelim.
Okay. So what like here, like jurisdiction, for example, like, do they still, like, now that, because under duress I signed my, bail, do they have personal jurisdiction over me, and now I have to argue just subject matter, or, like, so my question is, like, how do I move forward without them, just throwing out my motion to my demur or anything, so that I can do this properly?
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you? We're coming back from the. Oh, damn it! Hold on 1 second.
It's all right, brother.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're on another quick commercial. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So, like, my question is, what is my next step? Because did I give up personal jurisdiction by simply under duress signing a bail here? No. Like, by the way, they didn't show me. They just said, hey, you have to sign here to see the judge. And apparently that was a non-guilty plea during my arraignment. What are my next steps? Like, do they have personal jurisdiction simply because I bonded out of jail against, my will? Or, like, what do I have to do to move forward without prosecution or, like, addressing their jurisdiction?
Yeah, I don't believe that you're signing something under duress gives the prosecution evidence proving territorial and personal jurisdiction. I don't think it's a waiver when it's done under threat, duress, and coercion anyway. So I would still challenge them on territorial, personal, and subject matter jurisdiction, which is what I do through the demur. All right, we're coming back.
So how do I? All right. Okay. So when I filed the demur.
Well, welcome back to the No State Project. We're here live talking with John in California, and your question. So you're asking me the question about the demur. So go ahead.
Yeah. So with the demur, like the issue is I don't want to go and file these things. I'm doing all these things that they expect, the lawyers to do, all this stuff. I just want to know the proper process, because I've seen many different, ideas or everything told to me to try. I want to make sure, what is the proper process? Like, how do I go about this so that they don't wrongfully imprison me again?
Well, I have a demur, motion to dismiss and demur a template available that I give instructions. Your biggest problem is that you're probably going to have this attorney go as at least standby so that you can actually file them and argue and cross-examine a police officer effectively. So the actual mechanics of filing the demur and whatnot is easy. I have that available at markstevens.net, and I give you the instructions, and we have the show that people call. Well, they're calling now to address any questions or concerns that people have about getting the paperwork filed properly. It's not something that we have any time to discuss on the show, and it's not I have the instructions for that. You have to file with the clerk of the court. You file with the prosecution.
So, all right. So if I email you, we can kind of like go further on this outside with, off the air.
Yeah, you can email me at markstevens.net. If you go to markstevens.net under the store, you can order a copy of the templates.
Okay, cool. Because I was trying to do that, it just seemed like it was like a little, like there was a process that it was just a little more difficult than I was used to. But I do want to move forward. Marc, I do want to say, while I am on the air with you, that you really are, once again, like I said before, an inspiration, and I commend you for sticking up and just I know you deal with so much of the ridiculers and the people trying to discredit the fact that you're right, and they never have any real evidence. They never have anything of substance to back up their claims or arguments, which you do. And I just want you to know that they're, because I know you talk about, the viewers, the amount of viewers and this and that, that is irrelevant, because the amount of context and the substance behind what you're trying to convey and help people with is just literally so much larger than the eyes are used to being able to see, that I understand the reason that most people can't comprehend or are competent enough to even have a conversation with you or understand what you're even talking about.
I think
which
most
is
people
sad,
get
because
it.
that should be the majority rather than the minority.
I just think the resistance comes from the fact that people are conditioned. That even so-called skeptics or anarchists or voluntarists or narco-capitalists, even they have a problem with the obvious. I do want to point out about the numbers. I have not ever really tried to do major promotion for the show. It's all based on word of mouth, and it's small. But I do this not to have the biggest radio show and to be able to say, I have the biggest podcast in the world. I don't give a I honestly don't give a damn. I do this to help people, and as evidenced by the success stories on the website, I'm meeting that objective. Do I want a larger audience? Yes. Do I want to get to a voluntary society, which is what it's all about? But I don't sweat over the numbers. The show is growing. That's fine. New people contact me every day, and that's fine. I'm not doing this to be in the radio business, which, hey, anyone will tell you. Ian Freeman, Free Talk, I have nothing but disdain for the radio business. I actually can't stand it. I hate the behind-the-scenes crap. I'm not someone who likes advertising in any shape or form. I can't stand it. I'm like Bill Hicks on that one. I think people in PR and advertising should kill themselves, just like the police should. But the objective is being met, and I appreciate your words. People are are learning how to effectively defend themselves.
Scared. Well, people are scared. Mark, people are scared. They're afraid. They're like, hey, I know what Mark is saying is right, and that I should go and do, people know they're scared. Why are they scared? Because people with guns or enforcement, like you say, the mafia, will show up and, harm you. Like, this guy is like, oh, well, the fact you showed up to the court means jurisdiction, and you're acknowledging. And, yeah, I am,
crazy.
because I don't want to be kidnapped or thrown in jail or hurt. Yeah, I'm not acknowledging their jurisdiction. What I'm doing is, out of fear for my life, doing what they tell me to do. Like, if a criminal puts a gun to your head, Mark, and says, hey, go to your safe and open it, what are you going to do? Now, is that you acknowledging the fact that you appreciate them or respect them? No.
Well,
it's out of fear.
I remember Eddie Murphy from Raw had a joke about that, and it was like, with the slaves,
Yeah.
Right? Hey, keep back with that whip, man. I'll bail the hay. Just keep back with the hip, with the whip. They're not. They're doing it to avoid him going through the force continuum. You get so tired of all this stupid. At least I didn't have to hear anything about the roads today. But the idea to be so conditioned by their reification, that these things are real, that you volunteer, that somehow going to court is voluntary, paying taxes is voluntary. Well, I don't feel that. Yeah, you are forced, because if you stop, you will be attacked. And the idea that that ICBMcatcher is so desperate to be right that he will excuse such blatant, in-your-face violence. Well, I've never been forced. The hell you're not forced to pay. The hell you're not.
But hey, Mark. Hey, I'm not forced to pay, but if I had a choice, I would pay less.
I know.
But I'm not forced to pay, but if I had a choice, I would pay less. Which one is it? Are you forced to pay more than you want to, or are you doing it voluntarily? Because I'm confused, because those are contradictions.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I'm pretty much out of time, but I want to try to get to one more critic before. So
yeah, Mark. Hey, I'm gonna email you. I want to connect with you. I've been trying to figure out how to. I want to get an hour of time with you. I want to. Pay for that. Just email me back. I want to work with you. You're great. You're an inspiration. You're doing the right thing. I'm so proud of you. And get to the critics. Get to these guys. Get the message out there. You're doing the right thing, brother, and I'm so proud of you and inspired by you. Thank you for your time, Mark,
John,
and I'll connect with you later, brother.
I appreciate it. John, one question. Even after hearing ICBM and all his claims against me, you still want to work with me?
Yo, of course, I'm here with my friend. Listen, the thing is those are the people. Yes, that is the reason I want to work with you, Mark, is because the people, he was the exact example of what we're going against court or judges, all these people who are uneducated on the law. If you would have asked him what the Fourth Amendment was, he would have no idea. And it's these people who are just well, we have enforcement because that's the rule. But if I can enforce that I get to come to your house and hook up with your wife and take your money every day, then it's a law because it's enforceable. No, he's ridiculous. There was no evidence. Everything you were saying is a fact proven by not only if you look at it at a spiritual realm of only God can judge you, not man, but the fact okay, let's play into their game. Let's use their constitution. It's even unconstitutional, the things they're doing. So it's just wrong on multiple levels, almost any level besides the fact that you just give consent because you have no other choice.
Because you didn't leave.
Under duress. So yeah, more people need to listen to you, Mark, and I want to help you with promoting and getting this out there. I want to connect with you. You are an awesome man. You are courageous, fearless, and I respect you on a high level. Therefore, I want to give you more time to talk to these other people and help them out, and I will connect with you off air, and I appreciate this time, Mark. Seriously, you are amazing, and what you're doing is just something. I don't think you realize the extent of what you're doing now. I feel like in 50 years or when you're dead, in the future, what you're doing now is going to have reactions and effects of exponential value that you don't see can even happen right now, but that will happen because of your fearlessness and, you know, just continuance of doing this, even though all these people are against you, even though you're constantly against the wall, even though, you know, the majority are against the minority simply because they're incompetent. Like, you still stand up and fight for that regardless of the circumstances. And that, Mark, you don't even see.
Well, I appreciate that,
how
John.
you're affecting the future.
We're totally out of time.
Seriously, you don't even.
Yeah, but
all right, but hey, I know you got to go. I'm going to email you. Mark, thank you again for the show. I love the show. Continue doing it. You're awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I got to let you go. I appreciate it, John, in California. My name is Marc Stevens. Hold on, a few of the guys in the queue. I'm going to try to get to some people after this live show for February 11th. We'll be live again February 15th on Wednesday. Till then, salud. Okay, let me kill the feed here. Boy, that was a jam-packed show. What we're going to do is, I can't get to everybody, but since I look, he's been on the show before. I know he's been on the show before, so everyone, I apologize for this. I'm going to bring another critic on. It's after the live show, but it was just that kind of show today. We had the critics on, and so if I don't get to you today, email me the question or call into Wednesday's show. That, like I just said, that would be February 15th, this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know the call-in number. So I want to bring one last caller up. We have Infamous from Arizona. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
Thanks for taking me on, Mark.
Hey, I don't want anyone to say that Marc Stevens doesn't take criticism, and you've been on the show before.
You know, you wouldn't be quoting. Let me just interrupt, please. You know that I've never said that of you ever. So please don't attribute sentiments that I don't have to other people. You were very, very fair to ICBM, who in spirit I agree with, but he shot the world's biggest nuke ever. So he should change his moniker. No disrespect. I'm not a critic. I just couldn't respectfully disagree with you more about so many things that you believe. I agree with your previous critic that the state does exist. So this whole notion that they need proof of it to be allowed to arrest you, men with guns, we're just going to have to argue in concentric circles till both of us stop breathing, because you're never going to agree with him, and he doesn't already know that, which just has me shaking my head. Yeah, I'm not an anarchist.
But James, let me just say, I wasn't saying that about the criticism or directing it to you. I wanted, in general, I don't want, and I'm thinking.
I got your point. Mark, respectfully, I know we don't have much time, and I appreciate you taking me on. You never have to predicate your remarks to the audience, let alone to me, with BS, okay? I'm not accusing you of squelching my right to free speech in a debate with you. You certainly didn't do it to a previous caller who was a dreadful bore. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He made no good points. He doesn't know where the hell he's coming from. He doesn't know who he's speaking to. And he doesn't even realize the fundamental conflict of visions that exists between you two means that they're irreconcilable, and you're already solidified in your position. That he can't make a point that you haven't already heard. And I would have asked him his idiotic appeal to the masses. There are over 1 billion professing Muslims that believe Allah is God and Muhammad was his messenger. Does that mean that Allah is God and Muhammad is his messenger? If you want to appeal to the numbers, of course not. But I did ask you a question that you never gave me an answer, and I don't know why, because It doesn't matter to me whether or not you're a believing Christian or not. But I put it this way, I'll ask you in another way. Can one be an anarchist and believe that a man came in fulfillment of the Old Testament scriptures, and then can one still be an anarchist and believe that God commanded to render under, speaking of taxes, and that's what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about anything else, but he was being cornered. And he said, render under Caesar what is Caesar's. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to complete the sentence. My point is, can you actually be professing to believe that God said that when he was a man incarnate on earth and be an anarchist at the same time? Because I don't believe you can. Did I lose you?
You dropped off a bit, so I think I get the gist of what you're saying. I would say that yes, to the first part, that there are many people who profess to be Christians and are anarchists because they go based on do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and to love one another. And that, to me, is consistent with the principle of anarchy, of not having rulers. I think the answer to the second part.
Okay, are you?
I'm sorry.
Can you answer it as regards to yourself and not what other people can be? You said, I disagree with you, by the way, that you can be an anarchist and believe that render under Caesar and be an anarchist. Because Caesar, if Jesus was God, he was recognizing that there was a state that existed before he came back in fulfillment of the scriptures. He was recognizing Roman authority in Palestine, or whatever you want to call it. The old Middle East again, but I asked you. You answered by citing group. I just asked. Okay, forgive me.
Well,
I did ask a general question.
Yeah.
I'm asking it of you, by the way, not in general. Can you claim to be an anarchist and believe that Caesar believed that God said what he said?
Oh, I'm not going to discuss my if I'm religious or not. I don't think it's relevant to the discussion, but I do want to address, because I think that the scripture that you, I don't see that, but the other part that you're saying, though, if you just take that scripture for what for what it says, render unto Caesar, I don't think that that's recognizing that Caesar is legitimate. He's just saying if it's his, then give it to him. He's not saying it is. He was making a point against people who were trying to trap him. It's just like when they brought the woman caught in adultery, and he instead of he just said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." So he had people who had impure motives, who were trying to trap him so that they could have him killed, which eventually, of course, happened. And he had a very masterful response to that. But I don't see why, if the central teaching of Jesus is love one another and do unto others, I don't see how that's inconsistent with anarchy.
I didn't. Okay. Well, that's a spin I wasn't expecting, and I don't mean to call what you just said to me spin. And forgive me. But back to the legitimate authority. That's another topic for another day. I just want to, I'm trying to gauge first principles and where you're coming from, first principles. Like, for instance, if you claim to be Christian, then yes, the state does exist. It existed when Jesus was alive, and he recognized it as being a legitimate authority, and therefore we are both born into this same world now in the year of our Lord 2017, and have to live by what the world we are born into and its state apparatus that exists. And I do respect it. I know you don't, and I get your anarchism, but I don't believe it comports with Christianity. I'm sorry, and it's not an insult, and I'm not grilling you and telling you to tell me you're Christian or not. I don't care if you are or not. I care that you're a good person or not, and I do believe you are. The people that I actually wanted to talk to you about, because we have a mutual beef with the same person who is a pathological liar and an egomaniac, and it's despicable, and I've grown tired of it, because I love talk radio. Marc Stevens, I'm one of the best talk radio heads ever. I know it because I've been told that on every single station I've ever frequented. I know how to engage a host, guest, callers, all those, and I do it respectfully. But when somebody disses me, I'll fire back, and it's all of a sudden led to some really despicable things and lies. People free talk lies, and they're not going to get away with it.
Okay, but that's not something I'm discussing on the show, and we're off the air.
Right, I know. I don't. I'm going on a rant here.
Okay, but let's not do that.
There was another question I wanted to ask you about first principles.
Okay, well, I'll address that. But the Free Talk Live stuff, I'm on the network, but I'm not a part of Free Talk Live, and I don't speak for them.
I know that. I'm not finding you guilty by association. What I am telling you is you're associating with Free Talk liars. people that I take the word minister to be like of one of the most noble titles somebody can call themselves if they are a genuinely decent human being and live by whatever. It's the most noble title somebody can have. When somebody's a preacher that lies and does it against me on public radio and does it with impunity, malice, and without any care of the truth, that's criminal if you call yourself a minister and do that. You literally, men with guns and shiny badges should put a gun to your head if you don't put your hands up, if you ask me, for doing that. That's just, it's despicable. But anyway, my other question about first principles, and I'm sorry that you're not really, I'm not satisfied with your answer about render under Caesar, but I'm okay with that. Again, I know you're an anarchist, and there's nothing I can tell you to, unless you literally have some kind of weird epiphany and recognize the state is a good thing in some form or other, you're always going to be an anarchist.
You have to show me
again,
evidence.
I asked you this
but real quick, I'm sorry to jump in. It's not that I never would. I will conform to the evidence. If I'm inconsistent in my thought, again, I have proof of this from my show.
I'm not accusing you of being inconsistent. You're entirely consistent. No, you're entirely right. There is no evidence, except for the fact that the state existed before you were born. And that's where I've asked you this question before, and I didn't get a satisfactory answer, but it goes to first principles.
Okay.
I honor my mother and father, not just because it's one of the big 10 commandments, and the word is honor. It didn't say love, by the way. Honor. They gave birth to me, and I had to follow their rules whether I wanted to or not for a long time in my life, and I respected that. And it's not written anywhere other than, like, say, if you take the scriptures seriously, there's no proof that I ever had to follow my mom and dad's orders at all.
Sure.
And so was I, to quote Derek A. Horton, the first time I ever spoke to him, he was claiming he was a biological prisoner of his parents. He used those words and never answered the question, so I should submit it to you.
Okay.
When did you stop becoming your parents' biological prisoner? And are they not some kind of rapists or torturers to ever have made you their biological prisoner? Because, of course, I'm asking that in jest, but in all seriousness,
you're asking.
It has to be answered.
Well, I have to. You're asking a few things there. Rapist? No, I was never molested as a child. If that's what you're getting at.
And that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
Then I don't see the connection there. But this is something that's been talked about in anarchist circles or voluntarist circles for a long time. And Rothbard wrote about the relationship, the parents are supposed to have with children. And I said that they're stewards. They brought them in. I didn't ask to be born in Buffalo, but I was here. I would imagine that when I was when I was able to take care of myself was when I could be, emancipated, if that's the word to use. But I was not capable of taking care of myself until a certain age. I guess that certain age for me was 15 or 16. By then, it was probably voluntary that I stayed.
Thank you for your answer. I can respect you to the extent that I should, but the words like steward and emancipated, I believe, make my argument more strong than yours, because they're your parents, and I don't think you ever called your mom and dad stewards to their faces. And I honestly don't. I take it as a given you still love your parents, and you don't think of them as stewards. But you use that word in conversation with me because you have to. When you are a diehard true believer anarchist and don't respect any authority other than essentially your own, which, again, I'm not arguing is a bad thing. I think you're a good person. But you have to literally reject everything of this world that exists before it to be a diehard principled anarchist. And that's where I think the previous ICBM guy should have come at you harder. But it never even occurred to him. He just kept on making these statements that you've already answered 1,000 times on the shows that I've listened to. You answer those questions every time and dismiss his questions every time, rightfully so. There is no evidence, and there's no evidence that ever will exist. I grant you that, except for the fact that there are esoteric things in this world that we as human beings can accept as a given, like honor thy father and thy mother, whether or not Moses commanded it through the God. I think that's a pretty damn big rule that everybody should live by, just like your parents have a moral responsibility to take care of you when they had you. But again, there's no evidence that you ever had to follow any of their dictums. There's no evidence exists, period.
Other than the practical,
now.
Other than the practical result that I would, I may not, continue to live. But before I let you go, because I got to get the podcast to Calvin, let me just ask, since you believe that states and citizens exist, let me put the same question to you. Do you have any proof that reciprocal obligations of allegiance and protection were actually created?
They were created by man's word. Man created them. Do they exist before that? That's like what happened before the Big Bang. I don't have an answer for that.
No, I'm not asking you for anything like that.
The Big Bang.
Well, let me be more clear as far as I'm talking about the United States, and so we're only going back as far as 1775. Right. Is there any what evidence, if any, is there to prove that there were duties of allegiance in return for a duty of protection created? What evidence is there for those obligations?
I cannot answer that question to your satisfaction, because I would agree. I would submit to you, esoterically wise, there is none. But again, we're talking about where there are real world actors that, like the guy was saying, is a fact. People do rise to the top as far as being an authoritarian or just authorities. In our country, we were lucky enough to have people that just wanted to be authorities and not assert a gross amount of power over their fellow human beings back in the day in the 1770s. And that's why people like myself, who is a libertarian with a small L now and conservative with a big C, respect the Founding Fathers. I don't think they were a vicious, evil gang of terrorists and gangsters that wanted to take over their world. I don't believe that of them at all. Now, and they certainly weren't anarchists. Again, I cannot give you that. Your question is a great question because it cannot be answered to any of your satisfaction. Of course not. Just like you can't answer to me when you stop having to abide your parents' authority.
No,
there is no answer.
Well, if there is no evidence, then I accept the answer that there is no evidence. I'll accept that. It's not
right.
that.
Well, I said there is no evidence.
Yeah. Okay. So So if there's no evidence to prove that these obligations were created, then there's no evidence that there are citizens in a body politic, and that follows. If there's no evidence of a body politic, there is no state, and if there's no evidence of a state, then obviously you can't have a government. You just have men and women forcing strangers to give you money or give them money.
Right. And like I said, we're going to talk in concentric circles. That's why I didn't raise any of that, like ICBM has. And you gave him plenty of time to argue, and he never made any substantial argument in his behalf, other than he respects the state like I do. I recognize it exists, and I think it's a good thing. And ironically, you're an anarchist. I respect you, but there are 7 billion people on Earth, and if you pulled, I don't know what percentage of those 7 billion adults out of the adults that are 3 billion that weren't born in the United States, ironically. I know you're an anarchist. God love you, Mark. But ironically, a super-duper majority of those people, if they could have been all else held equal, their family, if they could have been born in the United States and not where they were born, a super majority of them say they wish they were born in the landmass.
Maybe. In
North America, where those guys in the 1770s wrote on a piece of paper something I dig, and I wasn't a party to it. And I respect the fact that I have to live by it, and I'm thankful for it. That's my rant, and I thank you for taking me on, Mark. But I should like to just remind you, because this is true, Calvin regurgitated smears of me by Free Talk Host Live hosts on your website by putting smears of me and turning my arguments into stuff I would never say, like anti-Muslim, when I never used the word Muslim ever on Free Talk Live, let alone I'm not anti-Muslim. And anybody that would accuse me of being such, they would never do it to my face, because then men with guns and shiny badges would have to be called after I was done with them. And I'd be happy to make that call. That's how personal I take the shit I've taken by people that you know. And it's not right.
James, and we got to end here. I have been, and I've played on my broadcast, Darryl Perry also completely mischaracterized my position also, and he's probably
Right. He didn't smear you.
Oh,
He did
no, that's not
smear
true.
you.
That's I don't know if he did. He said that I'm telling people there's only one of two ways that this is going to go when you work with Marc Stevens, and that is you're either going to get the ticket thrown out or you're going to jail for contempt. That is smearing me in a pretty bad way.
Forgive me. I actually think Daryl W. Perry is a piece of human shit.
Okay,
I'm so, but I will defend him. I do not take what he said about your arguments personal. I don't believe what he said to you or what he said was meant to be personal. What he did say of me, and you can check it out. I think even Calvin posted the 323:14. I was on twice in the last half hour. Everything that came out of that man's mouth was a complete smear of me, accusing me of wanting to commit genocide and kill all Muslims and all this. Not to mention all this shit. He accused me of yelling at Marc when Marc literally screamed in the microphone about the fact of the matter is people in the Pentagon deserved it. And again, these guys call themselves ministers. I don't want to go on a rant and take over our conversation talking about those scumbags, but I will actually defend WPU and his what he said of what you just said he said. I don't think that's meant to be personal.
I don't think so either, but
he may be wrong entirely, but I wouldn't take it personal. That's not fair. He's just wrong.
The problem I have with it is that when people come to me, when people are looking at my material, they're under attack, they're under stress, and it doesn't help the situation to have Daryl Perry, even in innocence, mischaracterize what I'm saying and scare people away from my material. That is, it's. I don't. Take
then I understand now why you take it personal. You put it that way, I'm like, I still. The intent is what matters. And when he opened his mouth and said shit about me, the intent was to hurt me and my public image, unlike with you.
Yeah, could you just not use the profanity, though?
Oh, I'm sorry. When I'm speaking of people that if they were a drowning man and I would literally have to look up in the sky and go, Jesus, do I have to? It's hard for me not to hold back. Again, I could mention many a smear by Daryl W. Perry of me, things that are absolutely not true, but he took great pride in accusing me of and not allowing me to respond. Like you are actually allowing me to have the last word. That's how one has a conversation with a talk radio show host. And you do live by those kind of things. And I do respect you as a man of principle. And I'm sorry I'm bad. I've cussed because I typically try to tame my tongue like the good book of St. James commands. But when I'm talking about people that I don't think that make the voluntarianist community and libertarian community look like a cuss word to rational human beings that we're trying to win their hearts and minds, the libertarian cause is never going to be a fruitful and bountiful and growing cause so long as we have certain people calling themselves libertarian and they have a big stage and they're making asses of themselves and making all of us look like asses or dumbasses. And it's just... Not to mention, again, the smears are real, they're deliberate, they're done with malice, impunity, and with complete disregard to the truth. I respect you, Marc, for taking me on and having a last word, and I wish you well, and I hope we can always have I already believe that we will always have a respectful disagreements, and I'm not going to call you names and never mislabel any of your arguments, nor call you a mass murderer or a drunkard or any of those other things that aren't true at all, just to get satisfaction because an audience will eat that shit up while I shit on you on the public airwaves and you can't respond. I've had to deal with that a lot.
I understand.
And these people call themselves ministers, and you associate with them. I should like you to knock some sense into them and say, you're not good people. You don't deserve my respect when you treat people disrespectfully and smear them because you think you're holy and righteous. And by the way, that's what it's all about. I'm not anti-war. Daryl W. Perry is anti-war, and he thinks that makes him more virtuous and loving of people. It doesn't. I think being anti-war is immoral, and it gets more innocent people killed than wars themselves have.
Well, that's an issue that we could discuss, but I do need to go.
I know.
I do need to go.
Thanks for taking me on. I appreciate it. Peace be with you.
Thank you. I appreciate the call. My name is Marc Stevens. This is a bonus edition or a part of the No State Project here on LRN.FM. And you can also hear me live February 15th with no commercials So definitely check it out. And so till then, salud.